Hello everyone, and welcome to Blue Penguin Game Tutorials. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today, we are going to cover how to set up Visual Studio. We will then go over the basic layout and functions available within Visual Studio, as well as create our first program with C++. Visual Studio is a programming API, or Application Programming Interface, used to create programs with computer languages, including C++, from which we can then incorporate into our games within Unreal Engine, Unity, etc. Writing our computer language directly will give us more control over the features we would like to implement into the game, and can enable us to start getting to grips with programming basics as we move further into this video series. If your computer does not meet the requirements to download Visual Studio, shown here, an alternative for learning C++ is to use Replit. Replit is an online compiler that supports multiple languages and is free for people to use. I personally use it to create quick programs as well as experiment without needing to create a new project. However, I must warn you that later on we will be covering how to connect your Visual Studio projects with game engines such as Unreal. Therefore, you will need to download Visual Studio for this. We will now go over the setup for Visual Studio. If you would like to go straight to getting started with C++, then go to the timestamp being displayed on screen right about now. Perfect. Now, setting up Visual Studio. Once you checked whether your computer meets the system requirements of the program, you will need to first download the program. Just click on this download button here in the top header of the Visual Studio website. And then continue to the free download button here under the community header. Open the installer that you have downloaded, and it will automatically install Visual Studio. When it has finished installing, you will see a new window appear called the Visual Studio Installer. This window allows you to customize your installations by selecting the workloads or components you want in your project. Components are the individual tools or functions used within C++. Think of them as the individual Lego bricks of the code. Each brick has its own characteristic and use. Workloads are a collection of these components. They are there to help you get started on whatever project you want. They take the fundamental components used within the specific types of program and set the basic foundations used within projects of this type. For making games with Unreal Engine, enable the game development with C++ workload. For making games with Unity, select the workload Game Development for Unity. For this tutorial, as well as for making C++ programs in general, I suggest enabling desktop development with C++, which is going to provide tools for developing Windows programs with C++. We will be using all of these components in future videos. So if you'd like to join us, we suggest you download these workloads. Press Modify to start installing the components and workloads. Once they have finished installing, you can open Visual Studio by pressing the Launch button on the installer window or on the desktop. Congratulations! We have finished installing Visual Studio. Let's create our first project to get started working with Visual Studio. To create a new project, press Create a New Project. Visual Studio will provide you with a bunch of templates for you to use. For our first project, we are going to select an empty C++ project template. Once we have selected the template, you'll be asked to do several things. Name your project. Set the location you wanted to save your project to. Name the Visual Studio solution, or SLN file, which is a container that stores projects. And lastly, check whether to place the solution file in the same directory as the project file. If place solution and project in the same directory is enabled, the solution will use the name of the project, and the project file will be located in the same folder as the solution. If this is disabled, then the project will be located in its own folder. Enable this if you are working with one standalone project. However, I prefer to leave this disabled, as to keep the file structure consistent for every project and solution I work on. Upon opening a solution file, you will see the Solution Explorer on the right, and the errors list at the bottom. The Solution Explorer allows you to access files in your project. Just note that the layout of the files in the Solution Explorer are not the layout of files in the project folder. The errors list shows any mistakes you have made in your code, as well as some warnings that could potentially have unintended effects on the program. We will start by creating a new C++ file. Right-click the filter, name Source Files. Go to the Add menu and click New Item. You will be taken to a new window that lists the files you could add to your project. Select C++ file and set its name to main. In the main file, type int main, curly brackets, followed by curly brackets. Inside the curly brackets, type return 0. Make sure that the name of the function is written exactly as shown, including capitalization. For now, we don't need to go through how functions are written. What we do need to know is that the program will execute everything written in the main function. If you have done the main function properly, you can now run the program by pressing the Locals Windows Debugger button, which has a solid green arrow pointing right on it. Or you can press F5 to start the program. If you see the Windows console appear, then everything is working properly. Now, let's have the computer write a message to the console. However, we don't currently have anything in our program that enables us to do so. Thus, we needed to get something from the workloads and components we installed earlier. Think of it as taking a book out of our bookshelf for the computer to read. To start, type include IO stream. #include allow us to get resources from outside our program, while IO stream is where we are getting the resource from. With IO stream, we are able to have our computer say things to the console. In the main function, write std cout. After cout, we will write two less than signs, followed by quotations. Anything written in the quotations will be the message written to the console, so you can write anything you want. Finally, you add a semicolon. Semicolons act like full stops in sentences. When you have finished making a point in a sentence or a statement in C++, then you add the full stop or semicolon so that the program knows that you will say something different after it. When you open the program again, you will see that your message is written to console. Congratulations, you have created your first program. And thus concludes our tutorial. I hope you learned something today from this tutorial and got you started on the basics of C++ and Visual Studio. If you liked this video, please leave a like and subscribe to follow this channel. If you have any thoughts or questions, leave it in the comments below, and I will see you later.